Hey everybody, thanks for joining me here and thanks for checking out my podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the notification bell for new episodes. You can also find Shine Without Shame on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. My guest today is Gina Viscusi-Elson. Gina is an interior designer in Los Altos, California. Gina, thanks so much for joining me.
Hello, hello.
I am so glad you're here. I've met you maybe a year or so ago, and we've had very small interactions and some conversations. I feel like our conversations have become a little more substantive and a little bit, they've
Yes,
grown as time
more
has gone
involved
on.
as we learn to
Yes,
trust each other,
exactly.
right?
And that's life. It
It is
really,
life. Yes.
it's the journey
The
of life.
evolution of friendships, right?
That's right.
Mm.
Yes. And I know that you're a business owner, of course, you're an interior designer, and you seem to have so many interesting things going on in your life. Your attention is I I always feel like you have so many things that you're kind of getting to, but when I've interacted with you in the moment, I always feel like you're very present. Does that make
Oh, thank
sense?
you. I try to be. Yeah. Yeah,
That's
it
a
makes a lot of sense. That is a fantastic compliment that I'm going to take
Oh
because
good,
that's
please.
really, really important for people to be present. So you just made my day by saying that.
I'm so
Really,
glad.
because sometimes I can be aloof. So I like that. I really do.
Yes, I think it's so true. And sure, I mean, we're human. We all have our moments, where we might be distracted, but that seems to be the kind of the dominant experience I've had with you, that this presence. And I would love to know about how a little bit how you got to where you are, about that process, because I know that you were, again, an entrepreneur. You seem
Yes.
like you're successful, you're engaged in your
Yes.
community, and I'm wondering, was that kind of always a sense that you had, like, I'm going to be out, I'm going to be out in front, I'm going to have my own thing and I'm going to
It,
be a leader.
it's funny that, well, so you're describing it, and I go all the way back to childhood,
Mm.
because I wasn't a leader then at all. I was a little scared person, but no, I don't think I didn't see that for myself until I was older. And I say older in middle school and high school. So I was, I guess, focused a lot earlier than some people are these days, maybe. I
Mm.
definitely knew I wanted to own my own company. I have a mother and father who both worked for the state, and state jobs are a set income, and we didn't have a lot of money growing up. And I saw the struggles they had as married people with children, and not a lot of disposable income. And I knew as a child, I didn't want that. I wanted something different for myself.
Mm.
So I guess now that I'm saying it out loud, I did know I wanted something different. Yet I was a very scared child up until, I would probably say, junior high. I started coming into my own, um, and, just developing, I guess, who I would end up becoming and being. So, yes, I did always know I wanted to do something. I didn't know it was going to be this, but it
Mm.
is, and I love it. I absolutely love it. Oops, pardon me.
That's beautiful.
Did I even answer the question?
Oh yes, you did. It's so interesting to look back at our journey, and there's always the core of who we are, I guess, is always with us, but
Well,
it
and that,
really
yeah.
it really does change and take shape as time goes on. And I mean, my father at age 5 said he knew he was going to be a doctor, a medical doctor, and that's what he did for like 50 years.
That's
But
incredible.
it is, and
You don't always get that. I mean, that's a gift that your dad had, right? That he knew so early and could focus his attention from that age in a profession is amazing. because so many people just ping pong around and until they figure it out, or they don't they don't have a certain passion or a certain drive, not meaning that's bad. It's
Hmm.
just everybody's different. And if they weren't, then we wouldn't have owners and non-owners and all the rest of it, right? We need all the different personality types, but
Yeah.
that, it's a gift to know a little earlier that you're on a certain road, I guess.
I agree. It is a certain kind of journey, and it was his mother influenced him a lot with that idea,
Okay.
but nonetheless
He
he
liked it.
continued he continued on with it and thrived. I'm the person who ping ponged, or at least that's how I used to think about it. Now I see, because I'm so multifaceted, that everything I was doing actually is kind of, it does form a picture.
Okay.
But it was
Yeah.
frustrating to, and my father never disparaged me for not
Hmm.
knowing what I wanted. He just was that kind of parent who's like, you need to work and you need to be able to take care of yourself. But he wasn't
Right.
pushing a certain path, which is a
Right.
blessing
Right.
and a
Right.
curse. But it really, I
Yeah.
think in the end was a blessing, because I've been able to discover that in due time. It just took me a little longer than it took him and it took you, it sounds like.
Right. Right. Yeah. Because it's like you said, especially if you're somebody that does ping pong. I love what you said about it all started to come together, though, right? Because all the interests, I bet, do. And it's
Yes.
exciting to see what comes of that, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah, I would
Mhm.
say I'm multifaceted. And so
Yeah,
what
I like
what
that
what
word.
looked like ping ponging, I don't think was actually ping ponging, but
It was
that's what it felt like when I was.
lots of different interests.
Yes. Yes, but back to your path, I'm wondering if there were any feelings or ideas that you had about yourself along your journey, maybe when you were much younger or maybe a little bit older, that you had to investigate or sort of take a step back and look at them, in terms of maybe they were ideas that you held about yourself that weren't necessarily based on truth. Maybe
Right.
for me it
I
was
understand. Yeah.
about like how a woman is supposed to operate in the world. I had this idea that actually wasn't really based on truth about my life,
Yeah.
but it was kind of handed to me, even in a subtle way, that I had
Right.
to then investigate later in life.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, there's, oh my gosh, there's all kinds, right? So, especially, I'm just going to stay with my own profession because we could talk about absolutely anything you ask me in my own profession, from the childhood of why I wanted to own a company to where I am and what I'm doing today. I mean, as a young designer, I I definitely had ideas of what work and life was going to be like. It's completely different than I thought.
Mm.
um, Not in a bad way, just very different. And I love it. I'm still doing it, but there were things I had to learn. And you know, I'm in a construction trade, being an interior designer, meaning that the construction trade is what I count on to put the designs together and build them for my clients. The architectural trade is what I count on to help create the building that they're going to live in, that I
Mm.
get to design. So there's a big collaboration. And the collaboration, definitely earlier on in my career, even up until now, though it's getting more diverse, was mostly in a male dominated profession. Um, and I'll never forget. I don't even know if this is going to go to our question, but I'm going to tell you a story. I remember the first job site that I got to visit, and I was super excited because I was interning with a well-known interior designer in Napa Valley, where I was born and raised. And she did high-end design, and I was just really proud that I even got the internship and that I had an opportunity to follow her around, and I got to look at the drawings, and I had an understanding of what I was looking at, and I was going to go to a job site and speak with the trades, right? This was my first time. So I got all dressed up. Well, you don't get all dressed up for a job site.
Mm.
This was this was back in the 80s. I had white bows on my shoes, and I looked like a really high fashion interior designer. And I stepped onto the job site, and they had some pretty tough questions that I actually knew the answer to, and nobody believed me. And I was called a pretty little girl.
Mm.
And um, I realized I had to make a change. I had to make a change. I can be a pretty little girl, but not in certain situations. So we're going to get to the shame in a second, right? Because there's some of that, because that situation, I felt shame in that situation, that I
Mm.
wasn't dressed correctly to play the role or to get the respect that I needed to have to make progress for that job, for that designer, for that client, for the I wasn't effective at my job because of the way I showed up looking, right?
Mm. Right.
And so I had to go back home and figure out, how much of this do I own? How much is this a society? How much of it happens to be just the person I met that day? Um, you know, any part of that. And part of it was, I was so excited to be an interior designer. I couldn't wait to put on those great designer clothes. But I never stopped to think of the reality of the situation I was walking into. You're going to a job site, there's no flooring, the foundation's just poured. I'm walking on dirt. So the ideal and the reality didn't match at all. And I showed up and embarrassed myself. Right. So I had the knowledge to do a great job, but I didn't get the attention correctly, because maybe I had too many feathers on my outfit, not literally, but you know what I mean? So
Mm.
that I felt really bad about that. And it made me make some changes. I'm professional. I look a certain way in the office, and I'm professional. I look a different way at a job site. I've got to be prepared to go up a ladder, which I still hate doing to this day, or a ramp, or in a basement, or over a puddle. And then when I'm with my clients, I am expected to be in my nice clothes, because fashion and design go hand in hand.
Mm.
And if I can't look good, how am I going to make their house look good? Right. So it's just this really interesting kind of back and forth. But the, that's again, in my profession, that was the first one of my first experiences that really rang out with me and made me start to evolve in different ways in my design career, how I was, how I looked at everything, how I was going to progress, and just starting to understand better what my job was going to be also.
Mm. That's so fascinating. And while you were sharing that story, I related to it. And I also
Mm,
thought, oh, what I hear you saying is that it's not like you've lost any of yourself, or that you lost any of yourself when you said, you know what, I'm going to have to dress differently when I'm in this environment versus that. It's not like Gina just threw herself out, like her personality out the
no,
window. At
no,
It was, you were adapting to meet the
I was
needs and kind
adapting.
of the expectations and the
Right.
realities of the environment,
Mhm.
but it's not like you had to shrink
Nope.
or hide your voice or not be someone who is confident, or someone who is just interested in beauty and design. And that, to me, even though you didn't say that explicitly, that was sort of what I kind of heard you kind of bringing through your story, was like, I had to make changes, but it was like those are just superficial changes. It's not like you had to
Right.
change who you
That's true.
are.
I did not have to change that.
I mean,
I didn't. You're right.
someone else in your
In
situation
that
might have felt
situation.
that they needed to change themselves
Right. Right.
internally.
Yeah. And I might have had that for a moment. Right. But you get home and you reflect and go, okay, this was just about the wrong the wrong outfit on the wrong day. Right.
Mhm.
Simply that easy. And I didn't make that mistake again.
Right.
And I would bring treats to job sites all the time, donuts or muffins or something like that, because these trades people get up very early in the morning. They work with their bodies and hands and all parts of them in the sun, out of the sun, and the rain. They have a whole different life than I'm ever going to have. So I would bring them treats. I learned to bring treats. And it's also, I'm Italian, so my heritage is feed everybody.
Mhm.
You show love through food. And so I started doing that as well. I would come to the job sites. Now I'm dressed appropriately, so they're going to listen to what I'm saying, give them a little bit of sugar so everybody's happy. And you just evolve and learn to just do things differently and shine.
Yes. Don't have to dim your light. You just have to, make minor tweaks
Make,
sometimes.
yeah, I think so.
Your story reminded me of a job related story. In college, I worked at a video store, those ancient institutions. And
Yes.
and then after college, I think just after I graduated, I was in a different city where I graduated from where I started college. And I saw an ad probably in the paper because this was before the internet. And it was for a video store clerk
Mhm.
in San Francisco, not where I grew up and where I first worked at a video store. And I showed up to the kind of interview, if you will. I felt confident. I'm like, I know videos and I love movies. I can do this. Before I even walked in, I felt really good.
Yeah.
However, I was wearing a business suit. Mind you, this is San Francisco.
It's the opposite of yes.
I
I love
show
it.
up, I say hi to, whoever I needed to say hi to. I
Mhm.
handed them my resume. It wasn't even like a formal interview. It was just some questions.
Yeah.
And they said, okay, we'll get back to
Hmm.
you.
Hmm.
Never heard from them. But it took me a few weeks to realize, oh, shoot. I thought that I had to show up looking
A
quote
certain
unquote
way.
professional. I grew up with very professional parents. They
Right, right.
dressed in a certain way. And that was
Yeah.
in every other environment I had worked in.
Hmm.
Business, casual business attire was
Right,
was
right, right.
required. Even at the video store, we wore little bow ties and cummerbunds and slacks
Oh my
at the
goodness.
video store I worked at.
Cute.
So it was cute. It was cute.
So
It
you were
made for
actually
easy
dressed down for
decisions.
the interview. Yes. Yeah.
But I felt there was so much shame for me around that. Like, how could you be so dumb? Like, why didn't you realize that you needed
Yeah.
to adapt? And like, yes, you had
Right.
the skills and you had the passion, but you were not going to fit into the culture. I was like, 19 or 20. I didn't know
Mhm.
that. And I didn't even think to consult with anybody. I just was doing what I
Right.
knew to do. And,
Right.
I didn't
But
get the
that's
up.
how we learn,
I
right?
learned.
You learn and you
And
don't do it again. And then it's like we were saying earlier, it's the evolution. It's the evolution of everything, right? It's you build little blocks, little blocks, little blocks.
yes, and it wasn't like I wasn't a bad person. I made a mistake. I just didn't know better. And I think also that was a part of me figuring out, like, what does it mean to be authentic? Like, how can I be myself but still adapt to kind of fit
Right.
into the environment?
Hmm.
And so that's what your story reminded me about.
Yeah. We all have them, don't we?
I guess so. And that's the other thing is I used to think, oh, this is just me who makes these dumb mistakes.
No.
But
No, we all do.
and it sounds like I'm being so like judgmental of myself and harsh, but it was disappointing, but it wasn't the end of the world.
Exactly. Same
I
with
moved
same with
on.
me. Yeah, you move on. And then or we people make a worse one later. Right? Because it
Yeah.
happens.
Yes.
It just happens.
Yes.
But
Well, I'm so curious to hear a little bit more even about how you kind of day in and day out accept yourself, even with your flaws, accept that you've got gifts and talents, that you are passionate about what you do for a living, and you're
mhm,
confident that you've got something meaningful to offer people. How do
yeah,
you kind of just day in and day out
do it.
do it, and knowing that okay, yeah, there may be things that I'm, not perfect at, or maybe I had a moment where I could have done
Mhm.
better, but continue to shine, and not let that light dull because of XYZ experiences.
Right, right. So there's a lot of ways and reasons. I'm going to say one of the first ways or reason is my staff, right? So I have a staff here at the office, and I take very seriously that people that work for me are here to have a career and to learn and grow and be part of a design community and all of that. And so I have to be here every day. I have to show up and I have to work. And the love of them is part of how I do that every single day. Um, the providing for my family. So here's just the reasons, right? Providing for my family. I need to provide for my family. I love my family. I provide for my family. I need to go to work and do that. I just happen to be really lucky and sometimes unlucky that I have a career that I absolutely love.
Mm.
That I've been able to make a lucrative career out of an art, really, because that's what design is. It's art. I'm painting a picture in every room of somebody's house. I'm no different than somebody taking a blank canvas and starting to rub color on it and try to figure out what I'm doing. What feeling am I trying to create? It's the same that you do in interior design with every single project. So, the love of that creative process gets me up every day to come to work. And it's very rare, Tiffany, that I wake up and don't have negative feelings. I can't tell you I ever go through an entire day without some type of negative feelings or self-doubt. I'm just, I don't know if there's humans that live differently or can actually say they woke up and went to sleep and never had a negative thought in their head that day. Oh my gosh, I'd like to know what that formula is.
Mhm.
It's my goal. It's the reason I do meditations on Fridays. It's all of that. But I wake up with, I have negative thoughts, and I have to push myself. And the things that get me going are some of those things: my family, my staff, my love of what I do. And I love my clients. I've got fantastic clients. And I was just talking with my lead designer today and telling her, I don't remember what we were talking about, but I ended up saying to her how intimate and how privileged we are to be able to be brought into somebody's life that we don't even know and trusted to create the room they're going to sleep in, raise their children in, the kitchen they're going to nourish their
Mm.
family in, the outdoor barbecue, the snuggle zone for watching movies where they're going to love each other. We get to create that for them. And it's so big, it really is big and beautiful. And that's that's how I can get up and have, that little negative on this side and just go, okay, get out of here. I'm going to work and I'm going to do something beautiful today. And, you know, I just keep doing positive designs and beautiful designs and have happy clients and happy family and happy employees, and hopefully people are happy. And that's why I get up every day and do it over and over again, and to continue to grow and evolve.
How beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. And I do know a little bit about your kind of mind, body, spirit work. I know that that's an important part of your life. And you just mentioned on Fridays you do
Yeah.
meditation. How how does that kind of keep you going? How or keep you centered? Like how
The
obviously it's
meditation part.
yeah, in terms of like why dedicate your time or commit to the meditation work? Like I'm assuming that it's something that you notice, you notice a difference, or do you notice a difference when you don't have it in your life? But why
Well,
is it important for you to stay committed to
right.
that?
So since I started doing it, I haven't not had it in my life because I've only been doing it for about a year now.
Mm.
So I haven't stopped with it. The difference is the first I noticed a calmness in myself, um, that it's part of, I have goals to evolve to before death. And one of them was calm, to be able to be calm in a storm. I am an emotional person. I am an artist, and I have ups and downs like a lot of artists do. And um, I find it gives me a sense of calm. And when I was talking about renewing my meditation commitment, my lead designer, who I just, you know, love, I was like, yeah, I'm wondering if I should be should I continue meditation? She's like, yes, yes. I mean, she almost jumped out of her chair and shouted to the world, yes, can I write the check? Do you need a credit card? What is it that you need? And I said, you see a difference. And she goes, I do see a difference.
Mm.
And that means a lot to me, right? I want to be the best I can be here, and I can be a better leader and a designer and a boss and a friend and a designer for my people if I can be calmer. And for me, the calm came with a lot of the destructive uh, stories in my head, or music, or old records playing in my head, that meditation has helped me not listen to anymore. So it's not that they're forever gone, but they're no longer playing 24/7. And when something surfaces, I know that when I acknowledge it surfaced, even just saying it to myself, and it doesn't have to be out loud, the acknowledgement that I get that I'm feeling negative about something helps me take a breath, and it just goes, right? Because I don't want to feel that way. It could even be something where I'm getting ready to do something, a repetitive task, and I've had a negative experience, right? And it kind of comes back, but it doesn't need to, because this task for this particular person isn't negative. But that you know what I mean? You get that old thing that comes
Mhm.
back, and it's just, I acknowledge that I've had that, but not now, and just moving on. And the meditation it's helped me peck away at little things like that. And it's just really, really neat. There was one other time in my life that I felt calm, like I'm feeling these days, and it wasn't guided meditation, but it was pretty darn close. I was seeing somebody once a week, and just doing a lot of work
Mhm.
and spiritual work, and just became very, very calm, and was able to hold it for a good couple of years. Um, but I get that life is too important for me to stop learning and growing. And when I'm meditating, I'm learning and growing faster than when I'm not. And um, getting evolving into the person I want to be even more and more.
Wow. It's it's so interesting to think about, or to hear you share what you're sharing, but to think about somebody who's very successful in business and who values the mind, body, spirit work, the meditation. I know that
Yeah.
it's becoming more popular and people are opening up to the idea of meditation as a tool for bringing in that calm peace. And it's there's a very physical component
Mhm.
to meditative work, and studies have looked at it lowers blood pressure and
Right, right.
helps you regulate your central nervous system. But I don't know if this is true, but I sort of also have a sense, and I know I don't know this about you necessarily from our conversations, but I have a sense that also your faith is a part of your sort of your foundation of what you rely on. And whether I don't know if it's a specific religion, or if it's just this
Mhm.
faith in something greater than yourself, but it seems like there is sort of a grace that I sense about you,
Thank you.
that uh that you are you have a kind of a connection to that which is greater. But I don't know if that's true. Please share what you'd like.
It's very true. So, I've felt and known in my heart and head for a long time that there's definitely something bigger out there, and have enjoyed as a kid growing up, as a teenager, all my phases of life so far, conversations in with that invisible entity. So I do draw on some of that, definitely. I mean, I feel that, I just feel that I'm a person in this world, and that my part in that picture, I'm trying to figure out how to say it, is to be a good person.
Mm.
And there's just some, in my opinion, just some common things that we should all be doing as human beings in relationship to each other. And I draw from my faith for that. So yes. So kindness to people. And, every now and then I will find myself saying, well, what would so and so do in this
Mm.
situation? And just asking myself questions like that. And I am my son. I love my son. He calls me hippie mama because I taught him from a very early age that he could communicate with butterflies and birds and plants and everything. And anything that's alive can be communicated with.
Mm.
And that we are all here living in a space together, and kind of counting on each other for interaction, or water, or sunlight, or food, or to be harvested, or whatever it is. There's just this cycle and circle that's really beautiful. And I feel that way from the littlest thing to the biggest thing, and everything in between, the human relationships, the way we talk to each other. Now, I'm not perfect. I'm very, very far from it. So when I stray from that feeling, right? When I stray from that, and I don't want to say stray because it's usually disappointment or anger or a frustration that gets in the way, and I don't think or act the way I just said anymore for hopefully limited short times. And it usually is very short times. It just makes me even want to go back and be more faithful, so that the next time something happens where I get angry or frustrated, it isn't so bad. Right. So again, that's also part of my goal in evolving, is when these things come that normally, because I will get mad at things. I get frustrated. I can't wait until that happens and I don't get mad anymore. It
Mm.
just is something that needs to change, and here's the solution to change it. Because getting angry isn't going to help me. Raises my blood pressure, makes me turn red, makes me say things I don't want to say. It makes me a person I'm not. You know what I mean? So, yeah,
Yes.
it's
Thank you for sharing that, Gina.
no problem.
I think that's what I find interesting is I know, like, where I started with the idea of meditation is becoming more popular, but people who are, successful CEOs of these very successful, powerful companies, I know that meditation is a tool that people are starting to open up to and they see the value in. But I sometimes, because I've been meditating quite diligently for the last couple of years, I recognize that meditation is wonderful again for that physical aspect of life, coming calm and kind of, being centered. But there is a whole nother aspect to it that not everybody is open to, which is connecting to that divine, connecting to that which is
Yeah,
greater. And
right.
so I've described it as like you have this beautiful home that's yours. And when you
Mm,
meditate, uh, on that sort of more shallow level, not shallow, like I'm not saying that with judgment, but
mhm,
in other words, the opposite of deep. When you're
right.
looking just for the calm, which is absolutely a good reason and a legitimate reason for using
Mm,
meditation. But when you only go to that depth and you don't go further, It's like, to me, you're showing up to this beautiful house that's yours, and you're at the front door and you're wiping your shoes on the mat and you're getting ready to ring
Yeah.
the doorbell, but you're not actually going inside. And
Mhm.
I value meditation so much more than I ever had in my life. I value it now, because I've learned, with the help of people and practicing, to go into that deeper place
Right,
where
right,
you do have to be okay with bumping into some things that you're like, ooh, I didn't know that was there. Ooh,
right.
I need to clean up that room.
I need to clean
Ooh,
that up. Yeah, yeah.
it makes you aware, but I think it does take courage, but it also does require a willingness to look at ourselves and not to dwell on every horrible thing we've experienced, but to say,
Right.
okay, I don't need that
Well,
anymore.
it's
I'm going
to
to remove that. I'm
exactly.
going to
I
remove
was
that.
going to say it's
It
to
lightens
move
your
past it.
burden.
It absolutely lightens your burden.
It
But
lightens your burden.
I would also say to you to even when people are going into meditation and not seeking the divine, it's not that they're not going to be touched, right?
Right.
And the calm that they might be searching for in their body is what they need to be able to open their mind to hear.
Yes.
And they're going to get a little, somebody stirring their coffee and they just don't know it's being stirred. And I know I've experienced some of that as well, because when I started meditation, I didn't go in to connect with the divine. That was not my intent. And actually, the first couple sessions, I got really uncomfortable when that came up in the meditation, because it didn't sound like my language, right?
Mhm.
And I made a decision to, and I actually talked with a couple people about it because I'm like, I'm a little uncomfortable and I'm not sure I'm going to handle this. And I made a decision to just continue on and see how I felt as time went on, and became not only very comfortable, but can't wait, right? Couldn't wait for it. And I feel, that we both know that we're talking about Crystal right now, who is the one that guides me through the meditations. And she's very spiritual. And I find myself looking forward to that part of the meditation with her, when before it made me a little bit nervous because like I said, it wasn't my language. But what I realized as my brain became quieter and I could process things, all of that belief was always there for me. I just wasn't comfortable saying it out loud,
Mm.
right? So that's what I mean about, I would say, I think people that you think aren't going in to see the divine or whatever, they're going to get something anyway because they can't not.
Yes. And yes, I could not agree more with you. I am certainly not the gatekeeper of, and the
Yeah,
judger of who is
right,
getting the
right.
deepest and the most spiritual. That's certainly not what I'm looking to do, or
Yeah.
that's not my place. I'm, but I am curious though. I do think you're right. If people are at least open to sitting with themselves for a certain amount of
Yeah.
time, they're going to experience some of that extra, deeper, more potent aspects of meditation. But I think in the conversations I've had with people, the conversations I've had with people who, they're not specifically meditation teachers, but they do a lot of mind, body, spirit work with people, is that
Mhm.
a lot of people, and I'm saying this with love, not because I'm
Yeah,
being
yeah.
critical of people, but I think a lot of people, it's very scary. And so I think sometimes they
It is
actually
scary.
use meditation. And I've said this here on the podcast before. It's not
Yeah.
my first time kind of reflecting on this, but sometimes some people use meditation to actually switch off or shut down that
Ah.
connection. And that again, that's
Oh.
not everybody,
Mm.
but
Right, right.
because it can be so scary, or maybe they don't have an orientation
Hmm.
to the divine or to the creator
Right.
or to God or whatever word we're
Whatever we
using,
want to use. Yeah.
then I could understand that. Again, this is not me going around wagging my finger at people. I'm just, everything I do is about exploring and
Hmm.
promoting the idea that we are all worthy
Hmm.
of connecting to that which is greater than us, and to
Yeah.
that power that inspires us. Even if we don't pray, or even if we don't meditate, we all humans have those moments where it's just
Right.
a quiet moment with yourself, and you just feel something that isn't completely you, coming from you. I
Right.
mean, to me, that is still prayer. You don't have to
It
call it that.
is.
I don't get caught up with the semantics, but
Right. Right.
and I do walk a particular religious path myself, but
Hmm.
I think I just want to kind of help encourage more and more people to open up to that journey. And like you're saying, you had someone who had a spirit, you had your own spiritual orientation, and then you were working with a
Right.
meditation guide who has a
Had a
spiritual
spiritual.
orientation. So I think that just makes the
It
process
was, well, it makes the
challenging, but
process.
still,
I'm going to say, after becoming comfortable with it, it's the best
yes.
because it's then I'm going to go full circle to what I said earlier, but it is the connection, right? Because
Mm.
I was able to get more when I let go and let in what she was trying to open me to.
Mhm. Yes.
So, yeah,
It's all
it's been
connected.
it's all connected. It's all connected.
I'm so
But
glad that
it's
it's been such a joyful experience. Profound,
mhm.
sounds like.
I love it. I so look forward to my my Fridays. I call my Zen Fridays. I just
Perfect.
love it. I look forward to it, and it's nice to have somebody on the other end that makes you think too.
Mm.
Just think in general. And like I was saying, for me, it was the whole point was really evolution.
Yes.
That was the whole point of trying it was I need help evolving because I couldn't quiet my mind enough to hear the thoughts that needed to happen. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Do you
Absolutely.
ever get that really busy mind where okay.
Oh yeah. I do, but then as I've become more competent in meditation, I also sometimes have a very busy mind, but that actually is what I need for the meditation. Sometimes
Okay.
in my meditations, I actually have conversations. I have a lot of
Yeah.
visuals. I
Right.
am like, I'm processing. So, uh, but yes, I would
I'm with
say
you. Yeah.
when I get into at least the first couple minutes, there is
Hmm.
this desire to kind of calm things down, but then sometimes things do ramp up, but
Hmm.
they're not distractions. So I guess that's
Right.
just,
Right.
that's been part of my evolution on the
Yeah.
meditative journey. But but yes, I understand the busy mind.
Yeah. Well, and,
Absolutely.
and I'm visual like you, so I, movies are always playing in my head. So
Mm,
you might, somebody will tell me a story, I see it.
yes.
So I can't listen very often when a story involves somebody hurting themselves because
Mm,
I see it, and that stuff really, really bothers me.
ooh.
But um, you know, yeah. But that's also why I'm so good at what I do.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt. No
I, I
doubt.
I walk through a home and I can see what it's going to be, not what it is, in a matter of minutes.
That's
And
such a
I
gift.
wouldn't it be great if I could actually do it that fast? Usually, because then it takes all the time to actually do the work. But yeah, it's a gift.
You're connected to the creative impulse, very, very much
Mm.
connected to that process. Yes. And